All right. I think with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening. Welcome to the Dram Road and Cuyo Park Island Annexation Informational Forum this evening. So going here on the slide. So the first thing we're going to do is go over a little welcome and introduction and move into some additional information. But before we started, I want to introduce myself. My name is Ryan Andrews, and I'm the Community Planning Manager with the City of Lacey. I've worked for the city now for close to 20 years. In that time, I've done a number of annexations. Our city council has been rather I'll say aggressive towards annexing unincorporated property into the city. And over the last few years, we've annexed about 2,000 acres into the city of Lacey. So we've done a lot of annexations here lately. The agenda for tonight, we're going to go through the overview and financial information that you may be interested in, the financial implications of annexation, what happens to your property taxes, your utility taxes, and other things. Changes in services that you may be used to, things like streets and roads, utilities, water and sewer, those kinds of things, and then any other services, things like police, fire, and emergency services as well. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we will talk about what's next as far as the annexation goes. So what are those next steps that will be in front of us here between now and kind of the first part of 2025 as far as the annexation goes? For those of you that are on the webinar that are using Zoom, please use the Q&A function of the webinar. If you do have any questions, we'll have a significant amount of time left at the end of the meeting to go through those questions. So if you do want to ask any questions that I can answer, go ahead and pop those in the Q&A, and I'll be happy to answer those at the end. For anybody that is at Lacey City Hall, after this webinar is over, stay put, and I'm going to pop over into the meeting room, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have at that point in person. So just stay put, and I'll come chat with you after the meeting. I did want to mention that this forum is being recorded. It is live on Zoom, but it is being recorded and it's going to be put up on the city's YouTube channel. So if for some reason you maybe have a neighbor, they weren't able to attend the meeting or something like that, let them know, or a spouse or something like that, let them know that this is available. They can go back and watch it on the city's YouTube channel later. So with that, let's get into a little bit about the annexation itself. And first, let's start with a timeline. This annexation actually started with a couple of previous annexations completed by the Lacey City Council. The first done back on March 5th and the second done on June 4th of 2024. Those annexed some areas. The first one, called the Dram Road annexation, annexed some property around the intersection of Judd Street and 15th Avenue Northeast, some property that is to the north and east of that intersection. And then an annexation called the Cuyo Park North annexation, which annexed the remaining unincorporated portion of Cuyo Park into the Lacey city limits. As you may be aware, the city is getting ready to begin construction on Cuyo Park here at the beginning of next year. And prior to that, because we had some portions located in Lacey and some portions in unincorporated Thurston County, it made it more logical to have it all permitted within the city. And then also making sure that we're not splitting boundaries as far as things like police calls and those kinds of things. So it made sense to pull that all into the Lacey municipal boundary. But in doing that, it left some unincorporated islands, so areas that are surrounded by Lacey on all sides. And I'll get into the map here in a second as far as what those islands kind of look like and the reason for annexing them at this point. So the Lacey City Council and the Thurston County Board of Commissioners have initiated this annexation using what's called an interlocal agreement, and that was done back in July. So the interlocal agreement sets forth kind of the parameters around the annexation in terms of things like transfer of assets and timing of the annexation and fees and charges and other things that need to be shared between the city of Lacey and Thurston County. This is a relatively new form of annexation. It was approved by the state legislature back in 2020. So the interlocal agreement is in a draft form at this point, and with that is set to be adopted here in the next little bit by the Thurston County Board of Commissioners as well as the Lacey City Council. However, prior to doing that, a public hearing is required to be held. That will be a joint Lacey City Council and Board of County Commissioners meeting that will be held on October 1st, 2024 at 6 o'clock p.m. here at Lacey City Hall. So if you do have concerns and want those to be heard by the City Council and the Board of County Commissioners, that is the forum to be able to do that. I'm a staff member here at Lacey. I can provide you with information. I can give you kind of insights into things, but I'm not the decision maker when it comes to the annexation. In this case, it is both the City Council that makes the final decision with the involvement of the Board of County Commissioners. So if you want to have input into that process, I highly recommend that you attend the public hearing. We also accept so we can accept oral comments at that meeting, but we can also accept written comments, and that is my email address on the screen. It's ryan.andrews@cityoflacey.org. If you want to provide written comments, we will accept those through the date of the hearing. So through October 1st at 6 o'clock p.m. Anything that's submitted through that email address, I'll make sure it gets to both the board and the City Council. So if the City Council and the board do adopt this interlocal agreement, which we expect that they will, the anticipated effective date of the annexation ordinance, which the council needs to approve, will be approximately January 1st of 2025. So this annexation will be effective at that date, which means that with the effective date of that begins the official kind of transfer into the city of Lacey. We do need to do what's called a census. So because there are shared revenues that we need to address at the state level, we do have to do a door-to-door census. So between January and March of 2025, you can expect to get either a letter in the mail or somebody at your door asking you how many people live in your house. That's something that we're required to do by state law. So just wanted to make sure you were aware of that so you weren't surprised if you got that letter or somebody knocking on your door. The way we handle that is mostly with that letter, people are able to submit either online or over the phone, just letting us know how many people live in their house. And with that, the only time you would see somebody at your door is if we haven't heard from somebody in a house or something like that. And we have to follow through that way. And then the annexation would finally be complete in early spring of 2025 after that annexation was complete. So here is the map of the essentially 3 proposed areas for annexation. As I mentioned, these are classified as unincorporated islands. So in order to get to these 3 different areas, you essentially have to drive through Lacey to be able to get there. With doing some of the annexations in this area, it's created some, as you can see on the map, some highly illogical boundaries. And so this will clean that up and then also make it more kind of advantageous, more logical for things like police service and those kinds of things, or public works folks, so that they don't, so Thurston County Public Works doesn't have to drive through Lacey to get to unincorporated Thurston County. So it's a priority, I know, of the Board of County Commissioners and the City Council as well to clean up these areas that are surrounded on all sides by city limits. So I did want to orient you a little bit on the map. As you can see the streets on the map itself. So we'll start with the southern area. It's located off 15th Avenue, west of Judd Street. So this is a subdivision known as Woodland Creek Estates. As you move to the east down Dram Road, you'll see Woodland Creek that actually cuts through there and then comes to the intersection of Carpenter Road and Britton Parkway, and goes east to our municipal boundary that is kind of at the top of a little hill there. So this property includes the blueberry farm that people know there. The new roundabout is that's just finished construction or just finishing construction is at Britton Parkway and Carpenter Road here. So hopefully that orients you to that. So we've also got two other areas that are to the north and the west. These are located along Pleasant Glade Road, near Pleasant Glade Park and the Cuyo Park in that area. So these are single-family residential properties that are located along Pleasant Glade Road. I'll show you an aerial photograph here in a second too, so you can kind of orient yourself maybe even a little better. This includes approximately 272 acres, a little under 200 200 separate tax parcels. The current assessed value of this property is about $87 million. We are anticipating that there's about 174 dwelling units in this area that we're proposing for annexation, with a total of about 400 residents. So I mentioned this will incorporate these islands and square off that illogical boundary. So here's an aerial photograph. So we'll start with kind of the area in the bright green. So that at this point is the different park properties that the city owns in the area. So you can see with the annexation, with these areas being now brought into the city limits, it's surrounded the red areas with incorporated properties. So you can see again, looking at the map, 15th Avenue down on the south, turning into Dram Road. This is a relatively new aerial photograph because you can see the roundabout at Britton Parkway and Carpenter Road. Woodland Creek Estates on the west side of this, and then transitioning into the area that kind of goes down the hill, down Carpenter Road. These are the properties along Pleasant Glade Road up in the north and the west. So again, some of the homes, I think it's approximately 8 to 10 homes that would be proposed for annexation in the northwest corner of this area. Here is a zoning map. So this is, again, you can see the bright green, which is open space institutional. That's our park zone. So you can see the extent of the park on the zoning map. For the large part, these areas are zoned residential. Most of it in the southern part is zoned low density residential, and there is a little bit of an agriculture zone, and that's actually that blueberry farm that's on Carpenter Road. And then the area that's along Pleasant Glade, those single family homes, those are all zoned low density. I'll get into this in a slide in a little bit. The thing is with our agreements with Thurston County, we actually adopt, their zoning is the same as ours. So upon annexation, the zoning actually doesn't change. So they've adopted our zoning into their code. So you won't see any changes from a zoning standpoint upon annexation. So with that, let's move into, I think, what most people are here to get more information on, which is how does this affect my taxes? How does this affect my bottom line? And this is information that was included in the frequently asked questions document that was mailed out to all the residents in the affected areas. So hopefully you've had a chance to review that. I know this information on this slide is pretty small depending on the screen that you're looking at, but it is the exact same information that was in that FAQ, frequently asked questions document. I've kind of split it into kind of two different colors, or maybe three different colors here. The yellow are those things that would be kind of changing or adding to your taxes. The green would be those that are being taken away. And then the different shades of blue, those are tax rates that don't change regardless of annexation. So I'll start with the yellow, which are those things that will be added to your property tax. And those are the City of Lacey property tax levy that you do not currently pay, obviously, because you're not located in Lacey. So that is based on a house. We calculated this based on a $500,000 assessed value house. you would pay two additional levies. One is a regular levy, that's $362.74 per $1,000 of assessed value. And another is a $14.93 per thousand charge that actually expires in 2026. So this is for a previous parks levy that actually is set to go away in 2026. So after 2026, then you've just paid that regular levy rate of 362.74. The rest, let's move to the blue, kind of the middle area. Those are rates that will not change. So those are things like school district levies, the property tax that you pay to Thurston County, Timberland Regional Library, the Port of Olympia, North Thurston Public Schools. Those all stay the same regardless of your location in the city limits or not. The thing that does change is actually the county road levy. So that is the green shaded area. That is an amount of $374.25 per $1,000 of assessed value based on that $500,000 house. So the good news is that you don't have to pay a county road levy anymore because you're not located in Thurston County. And so therefore that tax actually goes away. So when it's all said and done, your property taxes will go up slightly, but not as much as people typically think when they think of annexation. So in this case, with a $500,000 assessed value house, it's approximately $35 per year. So we'll say $3 per month, give or take, on how much that would go up. So again, you're paying that additional levy rate to Lacey, but then the county road levy goes away. So for most cases, it's essentially a wash. I think the biggest change for people is in the utilities tax side of the ledger. So let's talk about that a little bit. So this is the utility tax and franchise fee comparison between properties in Lacey and properties outside of Lacey. So right now, as a county resident, you really don't pay too much in terms of utility tax unless you are on city water specifically. There is a 6% utility tax on city water, and you can see that here. So for an average bill, so the left-hand ledger is all the different utilities that you could pay, things like electricity, natural gas, water, wastewater, stormwater, telephone, etc. Typically right now in Thurston County, you pay about $38.76 for an annual utility tax. So with annexation into Lacey, the Lacey City Council has adopted a 6% utility tax rate. And so here is where you can start to see some changes. And so again, this isn't going to be in your property tax bill, but this will be included in your monthly utility bills that will come, is that you will start to see a slight increase in those rates. So we've anticipated that for electricity, if you have an average $60 a month bill on that, an annual increase would be about $43.20. If you had a natural gas bill, a monthly cost of about $120, you'd see $86.40, and et cetera, et cetera. So a final amount anticipated is about $335.08 on an annual amount. So that is approximately $30 a month extra. Again, not that you would see in your property tax, but that you would see in your utility bills as a result of that utility tax that you would be assessed in those bills per that 6% tax that the Lacey City Council has enacted. The last line there is the franchise fee, which if you have cable TV, you're required to pay a franchise fee. That does not change upon annexation. So you can see bottom line is, approximately the difference is about $290 per year for a resident in the city limits versus that's in unincorporated Thurston County. So let's look at everything together. So as I mentioned, a slight increase in property tax, about $35. You can see that divided between, currently living in Thurston County and then living in the city, about $35 per year. The jump in utility taxes from the tune of about $290 per year. So the difference is approximately, and again, everybody's going to be a little different. Everybody's assessed value is different. Everybody's paying different utility bills. $330.57. I want to say that's, again, that's an average. If you do not pay, if you are, let's say, connected to your own private well and septic, you do not pay utility taxes on those because you're not connected to the utilities. So just keep in mind that, again, that everybody is different, and it depends on what utilities you're connected to as far as what utility taxes that you actually pay. If you're not connected to the utility, you do not pay those taxes. One other thing I do want to mention as well is that for anybody that is connected to city water, we charge, the city has a 20% surcharge associated with water, that would go away upon annexation. So anybody that is located in the unincorporated urban growth area of Lacey, so that you're in our water service area and we provide you with water, but you're not in the Lacey municipal limits, we actually have a 20% surcharge. Upon annexation, that 20% surcharge actually would go away, which would essentially bring down your water bill and essentially would help fill that gap between what you're paying now and what you would pay in the future with all of your utility rates and taxes and your assessment from Thurston County in terms of your property taxes and all that stuff combined. So it actually would potentially be almost like a wash in that case. So that's a little bit about the kind of the dollars and cents. Again, happy to answer any questions that you might have. If you do have them, go ahead and put those in the Q&A and be happy to get to those here. And I just have a few slides left, but I did want to touch on a couple other things, which is how will annexation affect our law enforcement and fire protection services? And so in talking about annexation, I think the biggest change that people will see is in police response. So if somebody is breaking into your house, you have a property crime, or you call the police, the Lacey Police Department is going to provide you police services. So I think that's generally good news. Now, the reason that's good news is because our response time from our police department is much faster than a Thurston County Sheriff's deputy, especially if it's a serious call. I know the amount of deputies that are across Thurston County is stretched way thinner than our police department in terms of their ability to answer calls. And so I think that is the biggest change in service as far as people who annex into Lacey can see on a regular basis are those police responses. So I think that's generally something that people appreciate because they get that higher level of service. As far as fire and emergency medical services, things like Medic One and those kinds of things, those remain the same upon annexation for anybody that's in Lacey Fire District 3. The only thing to be aware of is that if you are currently in Fire District 8, which is the South Bay District, and those are mostly for the properties that are located along Pleasant Glade Road. If you're currently in South Bay, that will shift to Fire District 3. So any changes in our municipal boundaries have to also change Fire District 3's boundaries because the entirety of Lacey has been annexed into Lacey Fire District 3. So if you're currently Fire District 8, Fire District 3 will now serve you. If question is, if I'm annexed, will I have to switch garbage services? The answer there is no. Pacific Disposal, LeMay provides garbage service. That does not change upon annexation. They do all the billing. There's nothing we don't have our own municipal garbage service, so that all stays the same. If you have a home-based business, how would this maybe change your home-based business? Basically, anything that's been a legal home occupation that's complied with Thurston County requirements. If you run a business out of your house, and that's been legally established through Thurston County, then that's essentially permitted in the city after annexation. So you can anticipate really no changes there. The only thing that you do now are required to get is a City of Lacey business license. which the initial fee for that is $25, and then an annual renewal of $10. The one thing that's not on the slide here, just to be aware of as well, is if you do have a home-based business, then there are some tax requirements that you'd have to be aware of because you're now in Lacey instead of unincorporated Thurston County. If you have questions along those lines, I'd be happy to get you in contact with our finance department that can provide you with some more information there. And then school district boundaries do not change as a result of annexation. So North Thurston Public Schools serves this area, and that does not change. It does not change what elementary school or middle school or high school your children go to. None of that changes as a result of the annexation. Let's talk a little bit about streets, and we'll get into utilities here in a little bit. So first, streets. Does the city take over our private streets upon annexation? And the answer to that is no. The city does not assume responsibility to maintain or take over private streets upon annexation. We will, however, though, assume responsibility to maintain and operate all public streets upon annexation. So if you are on a public street, Thurston County has been maintaining those. That will now be serviced by City of Lacey Public Works Department. The city at the same time would also take maintenance responsibilities for any public stormwater facilities associated with the public street. So there's not a lot of developed public stormwater in this area. I think most of it is probably ditches and those kinds of things, but the city would maintain and mow those areas. I'm not aware of any like formal kind of stormwater ponds or those kinds of things in this area that we would get from Thurston County. A question we often get for annexations is what about streetlights? Because in Thurston County, especially if you're an established homeowners association, typically you pay the streetlight bill. If you do have streetlights that you pay the bill for along public streets, the city actually pays those bills. And so if you do have that, let us know, and we will coordinate with you the transfer of ownership and payment to Puget Sound Energy for those streetlights. For existing private streets, those ownership and financial responsibilities do not change. So another question here, I'm on a septic system. Will the city require me to hook onto the sewer system? And I'll use a well as well. So if you are on a private well, much of this rings the same. Basically, if you had a septic system or well, prior to annexation into the city limits does not result in the city managing mandating that your property, that the property owners connect to the city sewer system. So upon annexation, if you had a well or a septic system and it was functioning well right now, annexation does not trigger any requirement for the city to take that over. So you'll only be required, for example, for the septic system to connect to sewer if you're, number one, your septic system has failed, and number two, the existing sewer line is within 200 feet. It's important to note, and it's underlined here on the slide, that this will occur if the home is located in unincorporated Thurston County or the city, regardless of annexation. So it doesn't change anything as a result. The city is the utility purveyor in most of the area out there. I know there is a little bit of Woodland Creek Estates that's served by the PUD through a private water system, but otherwise the city is the utility purveyor. If your system is functioning fine, there's no requirement to change that as a result of the annexation. So with that, I know I've given you a lot of information tonight, and hopefully some good questions that I can get to here in a second through the Q&A. Happy to answer those. But in the meantime, if you would like more information, we do have a website dedicated to this annexation. It has more information. It has more maps. It will have the recording of this video, and it also has the interlocal agreement between the city of Lacey and Thurston County if you want to take a look at that. That website is cityoflacey.org/annexation. So I welcome you to take a look at that. There's also there will be put up on the website the details of that public hearing. There's also a fillable form on that website. If you do want to submit comments to the City Council and the Board of County Commissioners, we are actually taking comments through a fillable form on the website as well. So it brings me to the last and kind of the next step part of this, which is the public hearing. So again, I'm not the decision maker in the annexation. I can provide as much information as I can, but if you have concerns and want those to be heard by the decision makers, I welcome you to attend the public hearing scheduled for October 1st here at Lacey City Hall at 6 o'clock p.m. Certainly we'll take oral comments at that meeting. We will take comments as well in writing, and if you want to email those, again, my email address is ryan.andrews@cityoflacey.org, and I will make sure that those comments get to both the Board of County Commissioners and the Lacey City Council. So with that, I'm outside of this forum, also happy to answer any questions you might have. Feel free to give me a call. My phone number, I've already kind of given you my email address, but my phone number is there on the screen as well. My phone number, my desk phone here is 360-412-3190. So with that, let's start getting into the Q&A questions. I see that we've got a few here from some folks. Happy to answer those. If there is anybody that's in the room here at City Hall, give those to Shannon. Shannon can put those in the chat for me, and we'll, like I said, be around after the fact as well. So the first question I see here is, how is the average estimated electric and natural gas numbers estimated? Those were an estimate, we did not pull people's utility bills to see what the average bills in this area were. Essentially, we've kind of used some, Lacey employee numbers on that. Everybody's bill is going to be a little bit different. Not everybody's connected to natural gas, and some have hot tubs or other uses that maybe pull more power than others. That's our best guess. We use, I think, in the numbers, we use $60 a month for electricity, $120 a month for natural gas to estimate those numbers. You could take a look at your own bill, and the main number to be aware of, though, is the utility tax, right, which is 6%. So take your current utility bill, multiply that by 0.06, and you're going to be able to see what your average or anticipated utility tax would be added to that bill. So good question. What is or are the benefits to the homeowner? I think I maybe hopefully answered this in the presentation. I think number one, I mentioned it in the presentation, which is the police service and the service speed that our police department will be able to get to you much faster than a Thurston County Sheriff's deputy would be. Just for everybody's awareness, so the way kind of the police department works is that they're split into essentially 3 different precincts. And so there's kind of a northeast, so that's a Hawks Prairie. There's a central, which is kind of here around City Hall, and there's a south precinct as well. And we always have officers on duty at each of those precincts around. And so, the good thing is we always have somebody on the road at any one point in those precincts. Those are much smaller than what Thurston County offers. And last thing I heard is that, they've got deputies probably serving your area now that go all the way out to Johnson Point. So, you're going to have a much bigger benefit there in terms of the turnaround time for the police department. The other benefit I'll just mention is, you're going to have access to the city council, so you'll be able to vote in municipal elections. You will have road services or street services provided by Lacey Public Works, and we have less roads to take care of with Thurston County. I think our streets are in relatively well-maintained condition, and so you have the benefit of getting some good professional crews on our road side of things. Maybe leaving something out that I can't think of off the top of my head, but those are the main benefits that I see to the homeowner at this point. If I didn't answer that, feel free to put something back in the chat. Happy to answer anything there. Question here: if the majority of the residents in the affected areas do not want to join the city, will be forced to anyways. So with this annexation, procedure, there is no voting procedure or referendum that residents are able to vote in to not allow the annexation. So really, the decision making is in the hands of both the Lacey City Council primarily with the Board of County Commissioners. So if you do not want to be annexed, I would highly recommend letting the board and the City Council know that, because there's essentially no appeal process if that annexation moves forward. So good question there, but yeah, unlike some other methods that maybe have an election or something like that associated with them, this is really a function of the Lacey City Council and the Board of County Commissioners. So they're the decision makers. I'd recommend if you have concerns that you let them know. Question here, will my address change? Currently, according to the post office, my address is Olympia. So my experience with this question is that technically, yes, your address will go from Olympia to Lacey. However, the post office will continue to deliver your mail, no problem. So this goes back a long ways. So we in this area, all the mail at one point went through the Olympia post office, and I think this was maybe like 50, 60 years ago. And so you could be outside of Tenino and your address is Olympia. You could be outside of Lacey and your address is Olympia. You could be in Little Rock and your address is Olympia. The main thing is that your street address is not changing, your zip code is not changing. So regardless of the city, technically, yes, it would be now Lacey, Washington. But regardless of the city, your mail is going to get to you because of this history that the post office has with everybody in Thurston County essentially being addressed as Olympia, especially if you've been in unincorporated Thurston County, your address is Olympia. So the post office is very familiar with this issue. They'll make sure that you get your mail. And then my recommendation is just as you transition over time, in your bills and those kinds of things, just do an address correction or whatever and update that to Lacey. Regardless, they're still going to get the bills to you. So it's no big deal. So a question here, after reviewing statute, it appears that the affected residents may submit a petition to bring annexation forward for a vote. Statute states that this petition may be formally submitted to the Office of County Commissioners. Do you know of a specific contact person or division where this may be submitted? As I mentioned, this RCW under which this interlocal agreement method of annexation doesn't actually have any methodology for a petition associated with it or any kind of referendum vote or those kinds of things. If you want to follow up with me after the fact, please give me a call and I can give you the specific RCW. We could talk about that in a little bit more detail. But this is it's a 2020 law that was put in place that basically says once these interlocal agreements are established, there's essentially kind of no way to be able to have any kind of referendum vote or those kinds of things. Another question about the address change. I think that's been addressed. Question here about changing sales tax rates. Why wasn't our sales tax increasing from 8.3% to 9.7% included with the financial impact report? I don't have a good answer to that. I'm not familiar with the sales tax rates. And maybe this is more of an issue now, especially because sales tax is at the point of delivery. Usually this is more for when we have like commercial businesses in the area and they need to change their sales tax rate that they're giving people. So if they're selling something, if they have a storefront, then we need to let them know about those changes in sales tax rates. I do think that this is something that probably people need to be aware of, especially now that sales tax is a part of the calculation at the point of delivery. So things like your Amazon delivery, those kinds of things you could have a different sales tax rate. If you want to give me a call after the fact, I'm happy to kind of run down what the sales tax rate is in unincorporated Thurston County and what it would be here in Lacey. So I apologize that I didn't have that ready to go. But really, I think, from this standpoint, we only really deal with that with businesses that have storefronts. So, and I know it will, the sales tax rate, especially now that we have, this point of delivery sales tax, I think it's really important. I don't have that information right in front of me, but happy to pull that. If you want, give me a call and I can pull that. And it's really going to depend on personal at that point, how much stuff you have delivered to the house and stuff like that. If you do most of your shopping in Lacey and Olympia, in a brick and mortar, that's probably not going to change your rate too much. But if you have a lot of stuff delivered to the house, probably could. So give me a call and I'd be happy to chat sales tax with you. So. Um, Will the zoning change higher density? So no, as I mentioned, the zoning will not change. Higher density, the properties, as I mentioned, the zoning does not change upon annexation. So at this point, the zones allow primarily it's low density across this area. I think there are a couple of small areas of moderate density. If you want, happy to go into more detail about where those are at if you want to get a hold of me. But for the most part, this is low density residential property. There are no plans to upzone this property as a result of the annexation. And there actually is some agriculture parts of this as well, which that blueberry farm is a part of that will actually stay as agriculture. Will we still be able to have recreational fires? Yes, good news. Recreational fires are allowed. So they're allowed in Lacey, so those rules don't change. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. I'm not seeing anything come through in the short term. Just go through these one more time and make sure I answered them. Appreciate all the good questions. Very good questions. Obviously, it's hard to anticipate everything. If you have other questions, feel free to get a hold of me and I'll do my best to get the information to you. A couple more seconds here to see if anything else pops up. No, I'm not seeing anything. So with that, again, my contact information was a part of the slides. If you think of something after the fact, if you're talking to your neighbors and you say, hey, what about this? Let me know. I'm happy to answer those questions. As I mentioned, the next step in this is that public hearing on October 1st. So welcome you to attend that. That's at 6:00 p.m. here at Lacey City Hall. Otherwise, again, feel free to get a hold of me. Happy to answer your questions. Have a great evening. For those people that are in the room, I will be over in just a second to chat with you directly. So thanks again and have a good night.